People are losing a lot of weight on GLPs. They're highly efficacious. People are super excited when they say, I've lost 30 pounds, I've lost 50 pounds, I've lost 100 pounds. But my concern is, what exactly is it that you're losing? So I wonder what's gonna happen in the next 20 years, maybe even 10 to 30 years, where you're gonna have a low level of muscle mass. What happens when they have a fall? Or they, what's their bone density gonna be like? What's their balance gonna be like? What's their strength gonna be like? All right, so I'm Justin, as they said. I've got a couple logos for some companies I own here. I'm the head nerd and scientist at all of them. They're all kind of similar companies. I make different types of compounds and drugs and supplements. Oftentimes you'll hear the comment that, oh, well, peptides are not orally active. I have to inject them, or I have to administer them intranasal or transdermal. I've been working on microneedle patches. There's all kinds of cool administrations, even eye drops. Is because our bodies are designed to break down proteins. We metabolize proteins, we metabolize peptides. It's not a catch-all statement that peptides are not orally active. One thing I get asked about all the time when it comes to peptides are the C of A's and the quality. But how do you define 99%? Typically, you would do that against a standard. So you have a known content and you would measure that. But also, theoretically, when you look at this, and this is super, super common with peptide APIs, and this was an API analysis, the water content is 5%. So if I have a gram of peptide sitting on my lab bench, it's kind of hard to be 99% pure if I already know there's 5% water in there. And then when you look at it, and not that that changes the purity, but it would adjust the dosing. And then you also look at, we look at the salt content, and so the number below the 99, we've removed the salt and the water content to get down to that, by weight, that's only 79% of that product is actually active peptide. And in that case, we adjust the dosing, or we adjust the volume or mass rather that's going into either a capsule or a vial. I think every ad on the planet says I need GLPs. GLPs are so popular. This is actually a published journal article I snagged the bar graph on, and what you see, and also what I see when I talk to friends and family and patients, is that people are losing a lot of weight on GLPs. They're highly efficacious. They really crush your appetite, and so you're on a caloric restricted diet because you're full or you have no appetite. And so people are super excited when they say, I've lost 30 pounds, I've lost 50 pounds, I've lost 100 pounds. But my concern is, what exactly is it that you're losing? And we all go right to, oh, I've lost weight, it must be fat, which is often true. But what these bar graphs are showing is that patients are not losing only fat. They're losing fat and they're losing muscle mass. And for a large portion of these patients, they didn't have a lot of extra muscle mass to begin with because they weren't working out, they weren't in the gym, which was part of the reason that contributing to the obesity. And so one of my concerns is that you're gonna see more sarcopenia in the future because people of different ages and different patient lifestyles, they're losing this muscle mass and they're probably not gonna regain it. And so I wonder what's gonna happen in the next 20 years, maybe even 10 to 30 years, where you're gonna have a low level of muscle mass, people that metabolically have improved, but what happens when they have a fall? Or they, what's their bone density gonna be like? What's their balance gonna be like? What's their strength gonna be like? And so they are really great compounds. We see them prescribed like crazy. There are some other things I think that need to be considered as far as with keeping muscle on. So one option and a clinical trial that is the combination of these GHRPs with GLPs. Probably the most common peptide I see talked about on Reddit or online or even amongst my friends is always, I'm taking CJC and ipamorelin. And so CJC 1295, so very often we'll see ipamorelin combined with these in the same dose. And the reason for that is that all the growth hormone secretagogues that you see on here, they act on the pituitary receptors for releasing growth hormone. Well, it turns out there are nuclear receptors that develop as we age that actually inhibit this process also. So we're stimulating the release. Ipamorelin is actually uninhibiting the inhibitor, if you will. And so the combination gives you an actual cleaner and better release of growth hormone as a drug combination. The reason that we're talking about these growth hormones, secretagogues, just to remind you again, is that I think, so I've written a clinical trial where we'll look at the difference between GLPs and then patients on GLPs with growth hormone secretagogues. It's my theory that the increase in growth hormone and IGF-1 should kind of be muscle sparing, and hopefully you'll see those bar graphs where there's fat loss and muscle loss will hopefully just favor fat loss and retain muscle.